So the cop, hey, welcome to the Cougar Land podcast. I am here with Cara Gillis, previously Gordon, very popular overall team of. Yeah, you're the overall team. Come on now, you're a trendsetter. We were in drama class together.
Yep,
That
yep.
yeah, and we kind
Couple
of
of shows, I think.
huh
A couple of shows.
a couple of shows. I don't know how I got into drama. I think my parents were looking for a babysitter after school, so you would have first it was men's gymnastics, which I was not into. And then it was competitive swimming and judo every day after school and whatever sport there was. It's like that was my babysitter. And then drama came along. I'm like, okay, whatever. Boy Scouts, I did everything, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Everybody does everything, though. That's the
eh,
whole, like, there was
right?
so much to do that you could always find something interesting to do.
What did you find like? What other activities did you have? You had drama class. Were you doing any other clubs or anything?
I tried to sign up for the clubs, just really to be social and be part of something and have something to do after school. I did the basketball team for a year, uh,
Hmm.
which was my favorite thing. I had no business being on the basketball team, um, but the coaches were so nice, and I would sit on the bench and they put me in for my 5 minutes, and I would run back and forth and just smile, and that was it. But the trips were great. I loved that quite a bit. Um, yeah, I tried a little bit of everything. I think I would go to the library after school. Like I was a big nerd, and
Yeah, I
uh,
thought you were, but you knew how to do the popular thing. It's like I don't know. You're probably like me. Like I need to get some more energy out of this. Like it's like when you hit the Italian community, it was so slow paced, la dolce vita. It was perfectly timed for someone our age right now, but it was not time for somebody our age back then. We're like, come on, come on, come on. They're like, here's your panino. Just go sit over there and stare at the birds over there by the square. You're like, dude, come on. You know what I mean?
I got there as a sixth grader. Um, so as I got older, I spent a lot of time downtown shopping. Shopping was a big
Mm-hmm.
time, just shopping for clothes and stuff, and that was fantastic. But as a sixth grader, there wasn't. I remember. Do you remember? And no one's mentioned it. There was like an arts and crafts
Yeah.
building. 13 to go. So like the minute I turned 13, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna go make me some leather bracelets and
Oh, I had one of those leather bracelets. That was over by the photo lab, I think,
yeah, yeah. And you
behind
had
the
to
behind the movie theater.
so I enjoyed that quite a bit. And just hanging out with there were so many kids, and I lived in Bellagio, and we lived in a great back corner. So the path that you would walk to go to base.
Yeah, yeah. That was a
That
very
was our
popular place. Yeah.
that was our house. Was the path would end up in our backyard. So it was a great spot to. You could always see who was coming and going and what they were doing, and
It was your news feed. You're just watching who's stumbling down the back road or who's running and getting some trouble or who's coming back from post telling me about what the game was like if I didn't
yep,
make it, right?
I love gossip and stuff. So I would immediately be like, "Ooh, I saw so and so going there, and they were with this other person, like whatever." It was terrible though because I would get grounded a lot, and I can't figure out why because I was a good kid, like
Right,
didn't
right.
drink, didn't do anything, and I was constantly grounded. So I think I had like a sassy mouth at home and would talk back, and that would be it for my mom. But I would be like in the kitchen, doing dishes, at everybody going to town and having fun. So it was a little bit torturous too sometimes.
Well, I think we all went through stages like that. I mean, for me, I lived off post, probably, I guess it's 6 or 7 miles. It seemed like 25, but, in kid miles, it's different, right? So it was significantly away from Bellagio. In your day, you wake up, everyone's in Bellagio. Hey, man, you just watch the cartoons on SEB or whatever. You know, was TV there when you were there?
We had TV, but I don't really remember watching it. I remember watching the day. What was that atomic bomb movie in the 80s?
Oh, there was something about that era. There was so many there was earthquake, there was towering inferno, there was sharks. It was extreme death. I mean, basically that was the parameters for making a movie. You had piranhas, you had sharks, you had buildings falling, you had earthquakes, you had the end of the world, zombies, the aliens were coming. I'm like, my gosh, what's next? Like Attack of the Flesh-Eating Giraffes? I mean, you can think about this, right?
Yeah,
You know?
that's what I don't remember watching. I remember watching Solid Gold
Oh
because
yeah,
they would have like the top 10 songs and then they would dance to it.
yeah.
But I don't really remember watching TV
Oh,
like people do now. Um,
I used to have to edit Soul Train, so you know that was it. I worked at SEB, and I'm like, I'm gonna get these moves. I'm gonna, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna go down that little line there. That looks cool. And that was just because SEB, when I worked there, the bakery, and I don't know, I always liked technology, and maybe because I craved the television from the States and all that other stuff, and I'm like, I need this. Because, I'd go home, we had a little tiny black and white television, and it would have two, three channels. And then if you get some coat hangers and some things and you built a little antenna, you might get half of another channel. And it was almost like they were like the government channels, the RAI channels, RAI, and that they had some of the most boring crap. It was like out of 10 hours or 8 hours of broadcasting, there might be 20 minutes of something you like.
right.
So that was it was very different. And I was there a long time. You were there. Now, do you remember the teen club when you were going from sixth grade? You get your teen club card.
Yep, yep. I still have my teen club card. I saved it.
Oh my gosh! So you went from there to California. What was the difference right away? Like, what year did you get to California? What grade did you leave again?
I left the summer after 10th grade. And that was a fantastic summer. Had a great time. My parents left early, and I stayed with the Bendicks, Kari Bendick.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to stay with them for a few weeks so I could finish my summer. Um, but my school was enormous. It was Novato High School
Mm-hmm.
in Novato. And, not a lot of new kids came every year. Like in Vicenza, when you arrived new, you immediately had like a welcoming committee. Like there were kids
Right.
there. Hey, hi, what are you
Right.
wearing? What's going on?
Right.
And there,
You get any music from the States? Get any new cassettes? Right.
exactly. You just sort of slipped in, and 11th
Mm-hmm.
grade, that's a hard one, to be new. But the weirdest thing was I remember very distinctly meeting with the school counselor,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like really pompous and kind of an ass, and just like, well, hey, let's see, it seems like you got very good grades here, but let's see how you do at a real school. And
Oh
I was
my gosh.
offended, and I literally was like, I'll show you what I'm going to do at this real school. Like, give me a sentence to diagram.
Right. 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 Give
I'm
me
good at
some. I'll show you some synonyms. You son of a gun. Right.
So
But
it was just a different. I don't think I ever did homework, um, didn't study, and I still did perfectly fine. And I literally skated through 2 years on what I learned in Vicenza. It was like remedial high school.
I had the same experience. I got out of school early, so I had to get to summer school to keep my credits up in ninth grade in Kentucky. I've said it on other podcasts, but they had to put me in 12th grade. And in
Yeah,
12th grade, I was doing third grade English that I learned in Italy. We got 10 words to spell on Friday, and you better get these words down. I'm like, well, shoot, I won spelling bees. This is going to
right.
be tough.
Well,
I know I'm not doing my homework or nothing, but these 10 words, I think I could focus on that for about 5 minutes. But go on.
exactly. It was crazy. And the one thing I that really messed me up and that I did struggle with was I had to take a foreign language, and I took Spanish.
Hmm.
I never learned to speak Italian, but you absorb enough of it that I was
The Latin.
constantly confused by like which words were Italian and which were Spanish, and I didn't do very well in Spanish.
I informally learned Spanish. It's like a decoding because I work with codes in the military. So I was like, oh, it's like a code. So I was like, hearing some Mexican guys in California, and that's where my Spanish came from.
Mhm.
And it was funny. Somebody told me, oh, you could speak Filipino. It's just like Spanish. So I had Filipino shipmates, and I'm trying to talk to them. Like, I don't understand what the heck they're saying. I learned some Filipino, Tagalog later when I was in the Navy because our ship broke down there. But if you think about it, learning all these different languages. I told my wife, this is funny. We went to Spain a couple of years ago. I said, honey, I speak Spanish. She's taking Spanish classes because she just likes that part of the world. I said, okay, honey, don't worry. I got this. She's like, you don't speak Spanish. And I'm like, she's like quizzing me on words. And we get off the plane. I'm like, hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Hey, vale. She's like, what the? She's like, whoa, where'd that come from? I go, it's there. It's an old machine I built a long time ago in Italy. You know what I mean?
And I wish I had learned more.
Right.
I'd really taken the time. But my husband and I went back. We got married in Italy, and we spent like 3 weeks traveling around and couldn't speak it, but I could order a pizza or something like that. But we'd be sitting in a restaurant, and I'd be eavesdropping on the table next to us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, her brother, her brother didn't show up for her mother's birthday. And he was like, "How are you getting this?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
It's just psychic waves of energy just coming through my mind. I don't know.
Conversation, like picking up little snippets, I could tell. And of course, she was very animated and talking with her hands, and um, but I could understand what was being said.
That's pretty cool. Now I've had that with some other languages. The hardest one for me, I went over to Hong Kong with my ship, and all the other languages had a either Germanic or a Romance language. Now we're getting into some of the deep different variations, multiple variations of Chinese and stuff like that. And Japanese was easier, but going to Hong Kong, I'm like, I need to find where's the nightclub with all the ladies. What street is that on? If I tell the cab driver, he's like, I go, I just started laughing. I was laughing. It's crazy. Like, what's so funny? I go, hey, I will not be able to remember that, and I'll probably say the wrong thing and end up on the,
Right.
red side of China in my cab. I go just by bad luck because I'm going to say, oh, take me over to the soldiers' camp over here and deliver me to their prison. I mean, I don't know what I'm saying, So not that that was close by or that was likely to happen, but yeah, certain languages, right? So I think we were in the same play with Melanie Dorado, and it was the Nutcracker that
Yep.
we did that big production at Post, right? You were there for that one.
Yeah, I was not as glamorous as Melody's role because I was a mouse. No, I was a rat. Whatever.
I was a nut. I was dressed up like a walnut or something.
Oh, that's funny. But I do remember that was in the movie theater,
Right.
uh, which was a big deal because the other plays, I don't think we did it.
No, that was a big production, and that was like the whole school came for it.
Yeah, yeah, that was. I really enjoyed that. I loved the makeup and hanging out in the. Remember hanging out in the lobby of the movie theater, like waiting to go on.
In the back were those big, thick doors that you push through near where the popcorn was and the vending machines, right?
That was
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
that was pretty cool. I remember that as a kid. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm like, I knew you, I knew Melanie. I go, I know all the cool girls. This is gonna be when I'm gonna get in seventh grade. I'm gonna get to know more girls. I'm gonna have lots of girlfriends. Not at all, but I just.
Peter Pan.
Hmm?
Peter Pan. We got to fly.
Right. I remember that. Oh, that was over in that small gym. It was like the elementary school gym, kind of,
Right, right.
right?
But that was very exciting to
Yeah.
fly out the window. Uh,
Oh, you were part of the flying crew. They get to wire you up.
I was, you like wait to get your role, and you're like, "Ooh, what am I going to be? It's going to be so exciting." I was the big brother John, right? And that was like in seventh grade or eighth grade when you were a little bit sensitive to stuff like that.
Yeah.
But who was the leader of it? Miss Medeiros, something like that.
Yeah.
At a children's theater. I don't remember what her name, but she talked to me and she's like, lots of women play male parts. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay.
We're just future pacing you for 40 years from now. Just hang in there.
But then I was happy because I was one of the there was like 4 or 5 people that got to fly, and that made it all worth it.
That's pretty neat. I mean, so where were you coming from before?
We came from Indiana,
Okay.
Harrison, and we lived off base there. So um, I went to like a regular school, and we were only there for a couple of years, but it was nice, very Midwestern.
Yeah.
Uh, we had a good time. Then we were there for the big blizzard uh, of 78, 77. I don't remember when it was, but it was a huge, all across the country blizzard. And then we won I tell you, everywhere I go, we win sports.
Oh, there you go. So you're the sports trophy
Kind of,
energy person.
kind
Yeah.
of. In Indiana, it's high school basketball, and our little town of Carmel, Indiana, won the state championship.
Nice.
It's like the movie Hoosiers. Like that's exactly how it is. The entire town had signs and posters in their lawn and stuff like that, and it was a lot of fun. And then I moved to Italy, and we won the World Cup when I was there.
That's your. I'll give you the credit for that. Take credit for every miracle within 1 mile for
I
sure.
deserve it. I deserve it. When I was at University of Michigan, we won the NCAA basketball champion. We won the Rose Bowl. Then I moved to Boston. Hello.
Yeah, and it won't stop. And so now your job is paid for good luck to stay near the stadium and right.
Just somewhere, or go where they need me. I don't know. I'm pretty flexible.
Have you made it out to any like Red Sox games or anything like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. We go. I'm not a big fan of football, so I'm not going to go all the way up to Foxborough. But my
Hmm.
husband. But baseball, we do love baseball, and Fenway. Fenway's a good place. So
That's funny. That's the religion there.
yeah,
It's like soccer in Italy, right? And so my brother and I were coming from baseball family with my dad, who was very well known in Boston. And we come back to the States and we didn't understand this, but there was this guy that owned this huge car dealership. We didn't rent a car. He's like, here, pick whatever you want on the lot, drive it, bring it back. It was a brand new car. I'm like, what is this? So my dad used to play for that guy's baseball team and they won so much. It was just like the best advertising for the dealership. The guy remembered it for decades and he never stopped. It was really cool.
did you say your dad played in the Cape League too?
Cape League, and they had a semi. There's an article I got to put up there somewhere, but there was a semi-pro team, semi-pro or whatever it was. I don't know the twilight certain kind of league, right? And it was right after he went to BU. He played for BU. He captained at BU, and then he went over and he did this. He went and coached the Marines, and then he gets out. He's just coaching. The guy can't stop coaching, right? Just picture the coach that can't stop coaching. He's addicted to it. So he gets over and they have this article about him, and it's like they would outdraw the Red Sox. They would have more fans.
And if you're on the Cape in the summer, that's what you do. You go to the games.
The games, that's what it is. The Cape League. There's a good movie made about it, kind of a fun, kind of rom com kind of thing. Yeah, it's a good time. So it's like it has that Americana, but that East Coast kind of feel.
Right.
And
It's very retro too. Like even current modern, it just feels old timey. Like you walk from the beach and then you go to the baseball game and you get popcorn and stuff.
where do you stay on the Cape usually when you go down there?
We haven't gone in a while, but when the kids were little, we would go to Dennis and Dennisport quite a bit.
Okay, okay.
Then you could go to either side. If you wanted a beach with waves, you'd go to the ocean side. And if you wanted a calmer, you know, just lay on the beach and let the kids splash in the idle pools.
Shock, no shock. I
Yeah,
mean, there was no shark sightings for the longest time.
oh, there are now.
Oh, there are now. But when I was there and there was no shark sightings, I'm like, man, I mean, it looks like they should have made Jaws here when I was a kid. And sure enough, now it is the epitome of what it should have been, right? The actors have been showing up, the white sharks. I'd like to try out for Jaws. So it's can I please?
Jaws was in Martha's Vineyard, the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Martha's Vineyard, I haven't been there yet. Now I'm out here experiencing the southern east. And somebody said it good to me. They said, you know what? You get the South mixed with the ocean. You get
Right.
Southern charm and ocean time. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll try it. You know, uh, Lived in Kentucky for a while. Didn't enjoy it as much because there wasn't like a piece of water near where I lived.
I hear you. I
I
hear
mean,
you.
if there's a big lake,
Boston, like I gotta stay near the beach.
you're kind of near the beach where you're at right now, huh?
You can walk to the beach from our house.
Oh, you're over there where we were talking about last night, south the area, right?
Yeah, we're like right. We're in Dorchester, but we're right on the border of.
Dorchester.
We're a little fancier.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, even what was once the hard neck town is now a luxurious. Like we said, it's got gentrified out there in Boston, big time.
Oh, Boston's crazy right now. The housing prices are just insane.
You're like, hey, we're rich, but we have nowhere to go with this money. Now,
Exactly.
you're like, maybe I want some out of town area in the Ozarks or Mississippi. But I bet you this place, the pandemic has probably inspired more people to move than ever because we all get a little claustrophobic. Look at me.
Right, right.
I'm a coast to coast difference,
The things you thought you didn't need in your house, like we don't need a home office.
right?
Yeah, I'm in my dining room right now.
I don't need a pool. I need two of them actually. No, but it's like where does it cut off? So you're kind of near the beach. You're near quick shot to downtown from where you are, so it's good.
Yeah, the subway, like maybe. Nancy.
Oh, here's our guest.
That's Nancy.
Nancy's checking out the mailman. Hey, doggy.
Probably.
So who have you remembered watching these podcasts? Who took you down memory lane watching some people?
Great, because even the people I didn't know or remember, I related to almost everything they said. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. But I really enjoyed Melanie's.
Hmm.
I feel like we have a lot in common. Like she mentioned, she likes to go to yard sales and stuff. I'm like, oh, so do I.
You guys got to get some overalls, fly out to Hawaii, and go shopping. But go on.
Exactly. Oh, my dog, Nancy. There's construction going on at the house next door. So every time they walk by,
Funny.
she mentioned that her parents were really strict, and I was like, I did not know that. I just thought she was really cool and busy. Like when we were hanging out at night at the bus stop in Bellagio because we had nothing else to do, Melanie wasn't there, and I just always thought, oh, she's probably doing something really cool.
Maybe she's dating a senior. Maybe they're making out over by the swimming pool. I
So,
don't know.
was there? It was like, oh, Melanie's out. That's great.
And it's funny because she wanted to feel like she could belong, and she didn't feel like we all felt opposite of what we really were. And
Exactly.
that's the greatest, the funniest thing about the whole thing. Like I wanted to be popular, but you were, and then some. But you didn't know when it reached internally, the emotions and the mind and everything clicked. You were
Right.
kind of off kilter. You're like this popular up here, but you felt like you were down here.
Oh, I thought everybody else was more fabulous. Like Melanie was so exotic and beautiful, and it's just funny. It's funny what your my other perception was so funny. So Teddy Spittle, who of course I had a crush on in high school,
Who didn't want to make out with Teddy Spittle? That was a woman. I mean, some of the guys probably too. But go on.
probably
Not me, but if I, go on.
that. And they keep commenting, like, give me a noogie in my head because I have an older brother too. So um, a lot of the older guys would treat me like a little sister. Like they'd push me into a locker or something as they were walking by, and it was hilarious. Um,
Your brother was pretty popular too. He was a big, good-looking guy, blonde guy, right? You froze. What happened?
Hello.
Hey, you're back. You went like this. Okay, but
Um, but Teddy Spittle. So years later, so I left in after 10th grade. In college, he started calling me, and we would talk for hours at night. And sometimes he was drunk, sometimes I was drunk, sometimes we were both drunk, just talking on the phone. And I literally was like telling my roommates, guys, I think this guy loves me or something. Like he looked me up after all these years, and he called me on the phone. What do you think? Then I listened to the podcast. He's calling everybody.
oh, I get it. There was a cute thing about Melanie said similar to this. We talk about perception, right? Like I think it was Norman Wimpy who I did a podcast with,
Yep.
and he was an older guy, so of course he's got that prestige to a younger girl. And younger
Yes.
girls always looked up the hill at the guy they might want to go out with when they were like seventh grade. They liked the senior, they liked the 10th grader, right? It was very common. They weren't going, that fourth grader's looking nice. Maybe he'll grow into a great man one day. No, it's never that way. So, yeah, I mean, so he writes to her, best of luck, love, Norman, and she goes, I read too much into that. Like she thought, like, oh my gosh, we're in love now. But no, it's so cute, but it's so true. I think so many people have these moments. You know what I mean?
Even so, I listened to Carrie Stokes's podcast, and I think of Carrie Stokes as my high school boyfriend
Yeah.
because we went out for like 1 week in 8th grade and or 7th grade. I don't even know what grade it was.
He was your Tiger Beat moment. Yeah.
I didn't go out with anybody else. Like I never dated anybody. I don't even think I kissed him. I don't even think I kissed Carrie Stokes. But
You
he was
might
my.
have, you held hands by the bus stop and that was taboo, but go on.
But when I think of him, he was my 8th grade boyfriend. But he doesn't think of like he had like 30 girlfriends. So he's just like, oh, Cara Gordon, he's somebody I know. But
No, he did ask about you. I was hanging out with them. He wanted me to get a hold of all you guys and say hi because he's never on Facebook. So he wanted, get hold of Melanie, and I didn't have your contact info. Then I would have probably hit you up and like, we're all drinking. Hey, here's what's going on. Hey, we're in the backyard over here in Alabama. That probably would have hit you up for sure. It's like I like reconnecting people.
it's like what you were to somebody, they weren't necessarily the same thing to you.
Um, I had I had a lot of opposite day, like a lot that like me, I had no clue. You know what I mean? And I thought they didn't like me. So I'm like, nah, yeah, I'll write you off like a tax break. I'll write you off too. And I didn't dislike them. I treated everybody with respect. I became kind of like my relationship with a lot of the girls that I knew there was more like I'm not trying. I gave them no interest or no showing, and I'm just like, hey, what's up?
Friend.
And I was, hey, what's up, guy? And I stayed there, and I'd stay there internally. And I'm like, because I'd seen some people get rejected, and that's a small school, it's a small tribe, right? And we talk about there's this thing I was reading. This guy was describing meeting women, this tribalism thing. So here's the let's say this is the girl that was the number one on the school play. Let's say here's Melanie, and there's a because she gets the leading role, and then there's a bunch of girls the supporting cast, and one guy decides, you girls are all talking hee and reading your slam book or whatever, and, and this guy runs in, and he's like, uh, kind of would like to go out with you. And all these other guys, I mean, other gals are going, looking at each other like, I don't know. They're like, I totally would, but they're giving this like, meh. And so it makes an impression on her because she doesn't want to embarrass herself in front of her friends. So therefore, she ends up rejecting the guy,
Right, right,
and he rejects himself, and everything's kaputs because that's just kind of how it works. It's everyone's like, I don't know if that's a good choice for you.
right, right. You also
Right,
have to choose somebody that your friends like.
right,
So,
right.
like, I frequently had a crush on everybody at one point or another. But like, if I didn't think my friends were gonna approve, I didn't tell a soul, and you would never know. And in fact, I was thinking back because I kept all my journals, and I'm constantly writing about John Domenicucci.
Yeah, I wrestled him in summer camp. Yeah, he was a
Super
big
on that.
handsome. He was like the stereotypical big how you doing? Hey, a big hunky Italian guy with the jet black hair, kind of muscly.
He's
Yeah,
all over
good.
my journal as the person I had a crush on.
Right.
I don't think I ever had a conversation with him. I know nothing about him, but he was Peter Cresci's friend, and my friend Yvette liked Peter Cresci. So I was like, well, okay, I'll like his friend John, and how about that? And what I would pretend to do, it was so weird just to fit in. And towards the end of being there, like in 10th grade, the group I was hanging out with was Kari Bendick, Kendall Pond, me, and Keiko sometimes. And Keiko was a little bit younger than us. But we would go downtown and we would try to meet Italian boys,
Hmm.
and just Italian boys. So, like, no crushes on any of the American boys. They were all boys, but the Italian guys were men. They had mopeds or cars, and
Hmm.
they dressed really nice. And meanwhile, I couldn't speak Italian. And I would just be like, okay, I'll go along with that. But I had a crush on like everybody who lived in Bellagio and like the smart kid who sat next to me in chemistry and never said a word because that's not what my friends were doing.
But we were worried about like the social scarlet letter. Like I can't be shamed. I can't give away what I have. I get a rep to protect. Hey, I wear a leather jacket kind of thing. But yeah, you think about you know what I've noticed about women typically is that they like the stranger from afar or
Yeah.
something that's deniable. They don't want to get rejected either. So you will go to the Italian guys and they're like, hey, I love you. Come ride moped. We go. I take you for orange soda. I'm your boyfriend. I'm a Mario. No, but that's it's my Borat Italian impersonation. But still, if you think about it, I'd see them. They're like, little horn dogs sitting there on their mopeds. Hey, girls, how you doing? And it's like in the States, you had the different, you had like the doo-wop, Rocky Marciano kind of, hey, how you doing? Hey, looking good, Paula. And they had those guys, right? So,
But we would go downtown and we'd run into groups of American GIs and we would pretend to be Italian and like flirt with them, but like we couldn't understand them. And ha ha ha, we thought it was so funny. And I think back on that, I'm like, oh, that's awful.
well, no, the GIs, they would hit on anything, and it's
Oh,
very
absolutely.
taboo. They'd be very linked up, locked up today
Yeah.
because
But we
it
were
was
like,
more it was times have changed, and it's not necessarily a good thing, but they were out. You had these high testosterone soldiers with very low selection of any woman downtown. The Italians would lock up their daughters. So if you're an American girl walking out, and you'd have some 22-year-old, hey, how you doing?
right,
You're like,
right.
I'm 14.
They wouldn't talk, they wouldn't talk to us if we were, that they thought we were American. Like I think they respected that they needed to stay. but we would pretend that we weren't, and we'd like ask for directions or something.
Hmm.
Oh, I think back. Thank goodness I don't have daughters.
Well, that's the funny part. It's like all the crushing. I mean, a lot of people are at home going, I guess I'm just not it. And some people figured out a way to end up going out with each other somehow by some, luck. And some people seem to have it all going on, but it doesn't mean it carries for life either. You peak in high school. I
Right.
mean, you get guys like Teddy Spittle, who was a model in high school. He did some male modeling with the moped.
That's right.
And, but now he's a successful realtor. I'm like, he's kind of had all the luck, right? He's kind of had it all, still prestigious,
He's
you
like
know,
genuinely nice guy.
no, he's a good dude. But it's like he's very empathetic, and that's why you were getting the call and everyone's getting the call. He wanted to make sure everybody was okay.
I told now I see it, but back then I thought I was the only person he was. I'm like, he took the time to look me up.
Yeah, well, like I'm somebody now.
Where was
But
he when I was in high school?
oh, you can't imagine. I mean, I remember when I was single before I met my wife, like 8 years ago, online dating, girls were talking to 100 guys
Right, right, right.
because they had more options. It was endless. How many can I talk to? 1,000. I must communicate with my community of people of interest. But then they're talking to 100 and 1,000. It used to be that people would have, like, you lived in Villaggio. There was three guys that lived near your house. Nobody's gotten near that guy yet. Maybe he'll like me. Nobody's gotten near that guy or that girl, vice versa, right? So that was probably the funnest, like, little young moment of growing up. What's that TV show, The Wonder Years or whatever? It's kind of like those moments, right? You know?
It was neat too because I remember everybody had like we lived in the area that had the single story houses, and at night, a couple times a week, somebody would come to your window in the middle of the night. Somebody coming home from somewhere or coming from a party or something like that. And they'd scratch on your window, and you'd get out of bed and you'd talk to each other through the window for a while, and it would be random people you knew and hung out with, but it would be people you didn't know either, and you'd be like, wow, I just had a really good conversation with him. We don't even hang out or anything. And it was just it was stressful because you always had to look nice when you went to sleep.
Yeah, I guess so. You had to be ready.
Your cell on or anything like that in case somebody came to your window. Um, but it was a really neat feature of Villaggio, I think, that everybody, I mean, I guess nowadays you would just pick up your phone and text somebody, but we couldn't do that. So you would physically walk over to their house and scratch on the window, and they would come to the window.
That's kind of like tweeting them or instant messaging them out. Scratch, scratch, scratch.
Exactly.
That's funny. You get to think about like how some things have evolved. Like you get to navigate to get to know somebody, or you don't want to lose your reputation. You stay over here, stay away from the bed. It's like it was such a small community. Everything you did was kind of amplified. So you either stayed very neutral and out of the spotlight, or you went the opposite way, right?
Feel like the different groups though mixed a lot. Like you'd be in a club or you'd be assigned an assignment or you'd be on a field trip and you'd be put in a group with somebody you're like, oh, I don't hang out with them. Like, and then by the end of the day, you'd be like, wow, we have a lot more in common than I thought.
Now this
And
is I have a better new friend. I have a souped up new friend here. I got.
you might not hang out together still, like when you get back to school, but I think there was a mutual respect of everybody. Um,
Well, we were all strangers in a strange land.
right.
I mean,
Very
which
much.
later became home to me. But
Right.
now where is home? I don't even think of that as home. I think it was a beautiful experience. For me, home is where my feet are, pretty much.
Well, this is living in Boston. I've been here since 1990. And I mean, this is the longest I've ever lived. I mean, anywhere over 5 years is the longest where I live somewhere.
So
Um,
how was your adjustment to Boston? I mean,
I love it. I love the city. That's got a lot of smart people. So like, there's always interesting conversation wherever you go. A lot of young population. So the bars and stuff were always a lot of fun.
mhm.
I love raising my kids here. My husband's family's born and raised here, so they're getting a very different experience than I had growing up. So their cousins live right here in Dorchester.
Oh, we
Uh,
had that. We had that initially, and I came back and it was all kind of dispersed. My dad's family all lived within a mile of each other
yeah,
in Boston. We'd have big barbecues and big
yeah.
get-togethers in the backyard, right?
They're sitting there watching the kids play little league, and then here comes their uncle and three of their cousins just to watch their game. And I'm like, that's so great. I didn't have any of that. Even even when I was dating my husband, we'd be walking around and he would run into 10 people. Hey, Sully, what's up? Oh, we used to play basketball together. And then one time a city bus drove by, and the driver honked and like yelled something out the window. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's Billy."
Yeah.
Always, and I never ever run into people that I know ever.
Except on the podcast.
Except
Except on the
exactly.
well, that's that. It's a you're what you're talking about. There's a lot of jocks in Boston, a lot of sports, a lot of community. A lot of whether you were a true athlete or not, they're going to have you play sports. You're going to get some of that in you, right?
It's
And
great. Great. A lot of politics here too. I enjoy that. Um, I don't know. I think it's funny though because my older son is he fancies himself like a nature guy, and he's
mhm.
from Vermont, and he's always sending me pictures. I'm out in the mountains, mom. This is where I belong.
Is he up in Burlington?
He's in, yeah, yeah.
That's
He's
where I joined the Navy. Yeah.
but he would always complain that he was born into the wrong family because he's not a city kid at all. And my brother lives in Boulder, Colorado, and my little brother Dan lives in Boise, Idaho. And when we visit them, he's like, "This is where I belong." I'm like, "You
These are my people. Let's go smell the leaves.
as a kid, you always want what you don't have." I think.
Right, right. Scarcity principle, pretty much. It's the, lack of something. It's funny. I was going to go back. You had your slam book that you posted the other day, and the slam book was social media, and it was also. But let's look at, since you enjoyed the gospel because it kept things interesting, anyways. But let's take that apart psychologically for a second. So if you liked a guy, you would find out who he liked because
Oh,
you'd have the slam book. You'd have intel. It was beautiful. It's a poll. We're going to take a vote and check the analytics of who's available in the high school.
right.
Right?
Even just and there was a lot of that stuff going around, and I mean, I imagine it had to be sort of damaging at some point. Like, what if you liked someone and then they rated you a 3 or something like that? Oh my God, that would have been a tragedy.
You know what? You got to think that there is actually some reverse psychology to that too.
Right, right.
But
Well, it,
you don't know till you know. You don't know till you know. And next year you're a little taller, a little cuter or something. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I must marry that person. You never know, right? There's not. I mean, there's not too many people that. There is a couple. There was Bobby Walsh, and he ended up with his high school sweetheart. They're still together happily. And then I think your brother married a Vicenza girl.
yeah, it's funny because they didn't. They moved there. It's Chrissy Johnson, and I haven't figured out which house they lived in, but they moved there after we left. So we didn't even overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Happened to meet. I think somebody in Glenn's office knew that he was from Vicenza and knew that she was from Vicenza and like had them go out to lunch or something like that. Um, but they ended up getting married. Yeah, they're still married. It's been,
That's
gosh,
crazy.
yeah. Their oldest son is 23, maybe.
Wow.
But they're out in Boulder, and um, but that would be so weird because when I talk to her, she's younger than me, but we'll talk and she remembers Kendall Pond. So I think she must have lived back in that same corner where we live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
House. I was trying to think just last night who's as one family left and another family moved in, like who had each other's houses.
Yeah. Who took my old house?
Yeah.
I did a podcast in the Navy about my ship, and my ship was I think they put it into service around 1972, and so I interviewed the guys from Vietnam all the way up to when they shut the ship down, which is kind of crazy. So I get to hear the story of the ship and everybody that was on it for like 30 years. That was pretty bizarre. So this is similar in its own way, you know?
Uh, and now my house, the whole court, because we were on a court with the Radcliffes and Claire and Tracy Kaiser.
Okay.
Older than me, they were in our front, like we were the back half, and they were in our front yard was their house. And you remember the McDonald's? Mrs. McDonald was maybe a history teacher, maybe English teacher, like middle school.
Yeah.
She was on our court, and the Bendix were at the top of it. Um, but that whole court is gone now. I looked on like Google Earth, and none of the houses are there.
Wow.
So I
That's
think the new high school is going or something. But I was a little sad. I'm like, gosh, even if I go back, I'm not gonna be able to see my house.
a lot of things changed. The pool changed, the layout, the back path of Bellagio was gone. It was there for quite a while. So people got used to it and talking about it forever. And you get to have your little grown-up experience, like go to the pizza place by yourself, go to restaurants by yourself. And okay, in the States you can go to McDonald's, big deal. It's the same, really, it's the same thing, but it's in Italy. But yeah, isn't it funny to just see people after all these years and like, you know, now we realize, oh, it was actually different than I thought.
Right,
Kind of
right.
funny. So yeah, I did see your former boyfriend, Mr. Stokes, and
Yeah.
he's good pick on that one. He grew up to be a handsome pilot, so that works.
Well, I did always wonder when I was in high school, like what he looked like in high school, and I always pictured him looking exactly like Monty. It was
Yeah,
so because they did look very similar. Uh, but I remember I would be thinking like when I was a senior in high school, he'd be a senior in high school, and what was he doing? Like I would always be like, and there was no internet then to like stalk somebody or Google them or find out what they were doing.
it was funny because everything was like, what a weird sense of finality. These are your friends. These are your friends. Now they're gone.
Exactly, exactly.
Right, right, right.
Well, I think that's, and I still operate that way. Like when I'm Indiana to Vicenza. So for like a month or two, I would still write letters back and describe, well, we're living in the guest house. We lived in the guest house for months on base before our house was ready, and and then you just sort of stopped and moved on. And I have never been in touch with those people. And then I moved back from Italy, and same thing, couple letters to Kari and Kendall, ooh, what are you doing, and that kind of stuff. And then we never kept in touch. But even as an adult, like in the different stages of your life, like when my kids were little, my friends were the other moms in the neighborhood who had the same age kids, and we
Mm.
do everything together, Halloween parties and barbecues and stuff. And then as our kids grew older, we went to different schools and stuff. Like we're still friends. If I run into them, I'll be like, hey, what's up? But then you know what I mean? Like we just like it's sort of like you okay, I'm done with this group. I'm moving on to my next group.
Right, right. No,
Weird.
it's kind of it's kind of how it works. And you're stuck. You're like, okay, I need to restart again. And I did that with a lot of my life. There's some people that like never want to look back, and that's their prerogative. It's like just go.
Right.
But if you're really zen and living in the moment, I get it. If you're not curious, like to know where you're from, and we kind of have that because of our circumstance of living in a foreign country, then moving back to another country. I'm sure. I'm sure a lot of immigrants have the same concept going on.
Right.
I mean, my wife's from Russia. She's not reminiscing. Oh, I could just go back to Siberia. No, no, she's cool. She's
Right.
like, that's all good. You
But I
know.
do reminisce like about going back to Italy. And when we went back on our honeymoon, we went to Vicenza, and I just thought we could stroll right on base, you know. And no, of course you couldn't. Like there was on high alert, and they weren't letting. We got as far as the front gate, and they wouldn't let us on. And I was like, but I used to go to school here. I wanna see it. They were like, no, sorry. And we couldn't get in Bellagio either. And then a few years ago, and I think it was Teddy, posted an April Fool's thing on the old Vicenza Facebook page.
Hmm.
They were tearing down the high school or something, or they were closing the base. The entire base was closing.
Hmm.
And I remember before I realized it was a joke, I remember being like profoundly sad that I would never be able to go back and see it again.
Oh
But then,
wow.
but then it turned out to be a joke, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, it's still there. Meanwhile, I may never go back and see it.
No, I
And
was
if I,
I was in Spain. It's like, and then I talked to Lisa Rolik. She went there. She goes, "Oh, it's a lot more crime." And I have a pro fighter that I did some stuff with from Vicenza, an Italian guy. He's like, "Yeah, it ain't the same, dude. There's gangs down by the train station with machetes, all kinds of stuff."
right,
Because it's like a border town now because people are trying to escape, peril of where they're at in Syria and other places. And then they bring their like survival to a
right.
place where everyone's like, oh no, come on, chill out. We're just, hey, we're trying to survive. Get out of my way. Give me your garbage. I'm gonna eat it. Whatever. I'm gonna take your car. It's like survival. It's humans. But
Even in 2000, because that's when we were there, we had somebody planned out our whole trip for us, which was great. And we said, we want to make sure we do this, we want to do this, we want to go to the beach, we want to go to Vicenza. And she was like, want to go to Vicenza?
yeah.
I was like, come on, just one day. Give me one day in Vicenza. She's like, okay, but don't blame this on me. Like, don't write a bad review of your experience because of your trip to Vicenza. Like, she did not
Mhm.
want to add that into our itinerary.
She thought of it as like as a bus stop.
Right,
Bing
right.
bang.
would go to like castles in Siena and staying in villas and stuff. And she was like, Amazon.
Right? I mean, when you went there, you were probably like, "Oh, this isn't bad." But I mean, you go through there so quickly. Like Sean said, my brother, he's like, "Yeah, you get there, and you're to one side to the other like that. You're gone."
Right. But it was good to see like the square and it was lovely. Like it brought
You
back a lot of memories.
should meet up with my brother. He lives near you. He lives in Boston. Yeah, he's close. Boston in within the city limits. Can't think of the exact area because Boston is Boston, but it's the suburbs. So near the parks and all that stuff. Yeah,
Probably, yeah, yeah.
it's kind of like my younger twin. Yeah, that's what he is.
I watched a whole podcast without my glasses on one time, and I totally thought it was you the whole time, and it wasn't.
That's so funny. Yeah, they look the same. They're the same thing. So for you, have you kept in touch with many people? I mean, or have you just started reconnecting or what?
Not even. I mean, even now we're not even really reconnecting, except sort of vicariously through watching your podcast.
Yeah.
Although I did connect. I've been. My dad has thousands and thousands of slide photographs, and I ended up with all the slides, and I'm in the process of scanning them and cataloging them. But I found a
Nice.
whole of we used to do a lot of family vacations and stuff with the Gonzaleses, and so I know Lynette was on Facebook page, so I sent her a bunch of pictures, and then she sent me a bunch of pictures of her and her kids and Yvette's kids, and that was really nice to see where everybody was.
So you've kind of reconnected to Yvette that way. It's funny because you were in school with the General Del Rosso and Admiral Yvette. I mean, what?
You knew that they were going to do well, like back then.
Yeah, but those are two very interesting career paths coming from the early '80s, right? I mean, if you think
Right?
about it.
Although I'm not surprised so many kids have ended up in the military. I
Yeah,
think
it's kind of a second guess. It's just that, like to take it like I would think like a lot of people would go to college, serve, and then go get a corporate job a lot of times. But some people took their military career very seriously, extensively. Like for me, I only did 6 years, but I think some people were like, I'm going to make this a life goal. And that's the part I wouldn't have guessed from either one. Now looking at it, it makes sense. Like if you're driven and you can provide value, that's excellent that you're leading our military. And I'm not saying it from a sexist standpoint. I'm just saying like what
right.
would you have guessed them to grow up to be if they weren't going to be highest ranking military members? That's the thing.
Even just besides being driven and focused, like the sense of service too. I think they
Right, right.
have that as well. Like that because when I went back to California in high school, I had missed the gym requirement or something, and so I had to take alternative gym class, and I
Hmm.
signed up for ROTC. And it was the Air Force ROTC, and what was really weird to me was all the kids enrolled didn't have parents in the military. Like I always just assumed.
You're like, I already know this stuff. I've done this. Yeah.
Well, I just assumed like the military perpetuated itself. Like
It was just everywhere you went.
and your kids would join the army or the Air Force or whatever. But
I mean, logically, yeah.
yeah, these were all kids who had no connection to the military, who were very into it, took it very seriously. And to me, it was always just a little not weird, but I think it's the sense of service, like they wanted to give back to their country, and this was going to be their career.
Right,
But
right. No, I'd love to have them on. I'm trying to coordinate. Like all the sisters gonna be together, but I can't get them all together. The Del Rossos. I'm
right,
trying to get them on. Love to have you on here. You've enjoyed the podcast. You got to pay it back. That's how it works. You know, Come on. The hardest part for me is booking these damn things. Sometimes people are like, I don't know, and I'm like, I literally do podcasts. I'm not trying to be egotistical with very famous, high profile people on another channel. But I'm over here with the Cougar Land, and people are like, I don't know. And I'm like, geez, man, I booked Tom Cruise before I get you on here. You know what I mean? It's like
it's a little self-conscious. Like, who wants to hear what I have to say? Like, that's it.
I like talking with you. It's a conversation. It's the gossip from high school. You know what I mean?
I
You
was
know
always,
it. Good.
I was going to leave somebody out or not mention somebody by name that I should mention, or we really haven't even talked about individual people.
No, we really got to get down to individual people. That's the new name of the podcast. Individual people that we talk about. No.
And I don't have any dirt on anybody.
No, but it's like it's cool that you admit your crushes and people are like, oh, okay. It's like,
And I was so terrible at flirting when it was somebody I liked that honestly, if there's
He
anybody,
probably came across mean.
I had a conversation with you that was like, oh, no, and then I like left and walked away really quickly. I had a crush on you.
That's how it works, though,
It's
right?
terrible. I'll tell you, someone I wanted to mention, and I would love for you to have him on the podcast is Charles Donaldson. And I think he went by Chaz later after I left. I don't know how he's doing, but he and I did not get along at all. And I think he lived in Bellagio, like over to the side, the other side of me.
Oh,
And
his dad was like the provost marshal.
I don't even remember, but
Yeah.
he would like clash. We would argue and everything, like just, ugh. And I think it was because he didn't buy any of my crap at all. And, but if we were talking about music, and I loved music, and that's one of the reasons I would go to the base library and like go through the record albums. You could check out record albums, which is really weird.
Hmm.
Just to hear new stuff because we were so limited in what we heard on the
Oh,
radio.
you get competitive with your adversary. You start trying to get more product knowledge, but go on.
That's the one time he was nice to me, and I was nice to him. I guess it was a two-way street for sure. But he was so generous with his. He would share tapes with me and recommendations, and he seemed to have this vast knowledge of all this cool music that I'd never heard of. And
He had an eclectic taste. Now he's a deadhead.
yeah,
He's a deadhead now in Oregon,
okay,
waiting for the next Grateful Dead concert to come out. So he kind of evolved from that new wave kind of thing. I saw him when he was in college. I partied with Mark Parkins, his brother Freddie, and Mark at Utah State. After I get out of my military training in Florida, I was going to California, but I stopped by and skied for like a week.
oh
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I miss skiing so much. Well, and that's funny too. Actually, when you mentioned in one of your podcasts how it was like we went to a private school and
Yeah.
we just didn't know it. I literally have to catch myself when talking to other people because we'd go skiing and somewhere nice. We'd be in Vail or something for spring break, and I'd be like, "Yeah, this is really nice, but it's not the Alps."
Oh yeah, you don't realize how pretentious. Like I didn't realize how pretentious my
Oh,
life experience was to someone else. Oh, well, I went to a private school and we'd go to Venice and I'd ski in the Alps. I mean,
right.
that right there is like saying I had a Ferrari, but it had Gucci stitched seats, and
Yeah.
you know,
Mom, give it a rest. Like we were watching the Tour de France on TV, and I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." I remember I was on a trip on a houseboat in a canal, and the race was literally going over the bridges over our boat, and we would lay on the top of the boat and watch it, and they'd be like, "Oh,
like
mom,
stop, like yeah. Some of our stories have like they're like a wedding cake with the ice cream sundae dumped on top with another cake with yeah everything. And you're like, okay, too much, dude. Now and I had the same experience. Well, yeah, I don't know if you had it in California. I had it when I showed up at the ship. If I tell them stories, they're like, "Ah, you never did that."
right, exactly."
Right.
Well, even in California, when I started high school, all my clothes were from Italy, like,
Hmm.
and it was just what I wore. But it was probably 2 or 3 years ahead of what they were wearing at my high school.
Right.
And I remember one day the Spanish teacher, Mr. Sanchez, he was from Spain, and he like very flamboyant and animated man. He was like, "Oh, finally, somebody with some style. I love how you are dressed." Very much. But it was crazy, and I was still wearing those clothes in college. 3 or 4 years later.
Come on, where's the compliment? And 10 years later, the same outfit. Come
Exactly.
on, give me the compliment.
Still working for me. It's still
You're
working.
like,
The trip that I was talking about to France was with the Bendick family.
hmm.
And Corey was allowed to bring a friend, and Brent was allowed to bring a friend. And it was a super cool trip. We were literally on a houseboat, and you had to go through these canals, and you had to go up locks to like go up different levels, and you had to get out of the boat and work the locks. And I can't remember who Brent's friend was. I feel like it was John Radcliffe was on the boat.
Maybe.
I don't remember, and it's weird because I remember like things we ate for dinner, but I don't remember the people who were on the boat necessarily with us. But we had an experience where first of all, we had one cassette tape with us, and it was Meatloaf, "Bat Out of Hell."
Hmm.
And now, anytime I hear we would just play it over and over and over and over. And now, whenever I hear it, I think of this fabulous trip that we took. But we had this experience where they had bikes on top of the boat, so you could take the bikes off when you pulled over and tied up the boat, and then you would ride into town. And we all went out to dinner one night with the adults, and the people who owned the restaurant were like, "Oh, you're Americans," because this was like a small town in France. It wasn't a big
Mm-hmm.
town, so they
Mm-hmm.
didn't get a lot of Americans there. And um, they ran upstairs and brought down like this elderly ancient grandma, and she was crying and she was hugging all of us kids and kissing us because she remembered the Americans coming through.
World
And
War II. Yeah.
yeah, and I was just like, I still remember that, and it was awesome. It was really cool.
That's pretty neat. It's so funny. Like, oh yeah, we were in the Alps, and then grandmas were kissing us. No, that didn't happen. I'm kidding. No, I remember. See, I went there till shoot. I think I was 19 when I left. So I was in the club scene. I was going to the discos, and I'd go to some exotic places. And I'd be telling I'm 19. I'm the new guy on the ship. Everyone's a rank above me. And I'm like, yeah. So we're at this 3-story like villa out near Marostica where they play human chess, and it's like and it's like there's all these model women from Milano, and it's like, and the alcohol is hitting, and the music. So, and they're like, you never did that, man. I go, hey, bro, I'm not from Ohio that grew up with a skateboard, you know?
Right. You can't even describe it.
Right. I mean, you actually become this yuppie preppy, little, Lord or Princess Fauntleroy of because you're in this Euro thing because it's exotic and it's from afar.
But
You know what I mean?
all this stuff too. Like I have a different appreciation for world history just because, like my dad, we would travel and he would take us to every military cemetery all over the place. Like that was his thing.
Hmm.
But now, like it gives you a bigger perspective. Even little things like we'll watch Jeopardy at night, and I will kick butt on some of these topics, like the Etruscans or
Hmm.
O River Valley, or what are the lower Italian Alps made out of? What stone? I'm like, it's dolomite. Everyone's like, how do you know that? I'm like, I just lived it.
I'm a genius. Don't. Yeah, no.
I
All
read
right.
a lot of books.
No, no. I show my wife who's got multiple advanced degrees, and I'm over here with no degree, going, watch. I'm like, yeah, because that you have that little superpower of being, entrenched in the culture, so you get that. So, what do you think the chances are? I mean, do you think that you and Teddy probably could have get married, or?
Oh, I don't know. Too social for me.
I like to throw you off. We're talking about Europe, but how about Teddy?
I love Teddy. I had a big love for Teddy. He came to visit me in Boston. Super awkward because we were supposed to meet downtown at a bar, and they were very late. I think they were going to visit your dad.
Oh yeah, they did go to visit my dad.
I think that was that trip, and they stopped by. But anyway, they were hours late. So and I had dragged my roommates. Oh, you got to come with me because they're meeting. And he's bringing friends, and
He brought Paul Ratcliffe or John Ratcliffe.
I don't think John Ratcliffe was there. I feel like maybe James Greenwell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I honestly don't remember, but we had been drinking for hours then before they even got there. So we were already pretty drunk. And then they were closing the bar, and I was like, oh, we don't even get to talk. But they came back to our place. My roommates all went to bed. They were like, whatever, these people are weird. And at first I was like, I don't know, what do you want to talk about? And then they started just telling stories and people's nicknames. And I was like, I remember that person. Oh, I remember that nickname. And they're like, oh, your brother gave her that nickname. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And then I got a bunch of gossip about my brother. And it was really great. It was just great to catch up and see them. And that's the only person that I've seen from Italy, I think, was that
Me,
one.
you just saw me.
And
Yeah, yeah, but he's, I gotta say that, Teddy carried the torch. Teddy carried the torch for a long time.
yeah,
I mean, of taking care of this part.
he's done a lot for keeping people together. My mom is always trying to get me.
Yeah.
Come on, visit in Arizona. You'll see Barry Panicky.
Excuse me, one second while I look and see if there's a. My wife's like, look and see if there's a tornado coming.
No,
Yeah, well, what I'm gonna do? Maybe I'll go visit it. You
that'd be
know, there's a tornado. I gotta go. Yeah.
But yeah, she's always trying to get me to go and see Barry Panicky, who I loved Barry when he was there. He was like everybody's brother.
Yeah.
And then he turned out to be super handsome stud. Like I looked at the yearbook that you guys posted, and I was like, Barry. Nice
Barry was a handsome stud that didn't know he was a handsome stud all the time.
so nice. He was so nice.
Yeah, he was nice. He was a great participator. We're supposed to meet up. So he's gonna live closer to me when I get my, we're working on getting a place. So he'd live 4 hours from me. So would Harlan Calhoun, and so would Chris Clegg.
Yeah, I
So,
know Harlan Calhoun. Oh wait, no, I did. I did. That name was very familiar to me.
yep.
I remember him. I remember him.
Hang on 1 second. Let me take you with me. Double check on the tornado watch.
I'm a little worried for him.
That would be so funny. That'd be like woo.
Like this guy was in the middle of a podcast when the tornado hit.
Yeah, it was the coolest podcast ever. Never get uploaded for some reason. I mean, I don't know. I don't see it here, but maybe my wife sees something here. See where I'm at by the beach? I'll take you on the beach with me. Watch this. Oh, get this stupid cord out of here. Yeah, I'm taking you for the house tour. Let me undo my perfect video. Huh?
I see is the Cougar Land broadcast. There you go. Oh, nice. Ooh, it does look gray and stormy.
Yeah, isn't that neat? Maybe there's a, oh my gosh, it's like one of these alien movies. They're coming, right? Yeah, I can't see any tornadoes from here. Maybe she sees, so she's on the third floor. The perfect water view, right?
Big like sirens that go off.
I have no idea. I'm open to it. I'd like to have the experience. I've been through fires. I've been through, oh, I see the Coast Guard plane flying over. That doesn't mean anything though. Why would it fly into a tornado? We would get some like notification on our phone.
Right.
We depend on others to tell us when it's time to run.
You didn't live in Vicenza, right? But
I did.
They would have, I'm not in Vicenza, I mean Bellagio. They would have like military alerts in the middle of the night, like an exercise to get everybody.
Oh yeah, I knew a couple of guys that were military intelligence. They told me they used to have to do that all the time. They lived at that place by the front gate.
It was super weird and alarming because they would drive through with huge sirens going off and lights, and it would be, but I was always I never really got over that.
That was anti-terror kind of stuff. That's what it was. Because we had the general kidnapped. Was he kidnapped when you were there?
Yep, we were there for that.
Yeah?
We were like told not to go downtown and stuff like that, not to look American.
Don't look American. Yeah, that's the next thing to come up today. Don't stop being American. Yeah. Let's see. I'll show you the view. I have you on my more interesting mobile podcast. Let's see here. See the view in the kitchen? Yeah. See the ocean?
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah, I'm 2 houses. That white house and that brown house is the beach. The brown house is literally the beach. So 1.5 yards.
And you get tornadoes that close to the water?
I don't know. There was one the other day. It's not focusing way out there.
Calmly. No, there was one the other day. No big deal.
Well, this is 3 stories, this house. So you've got a hell of a view, especially the 3rd floor where my wife's working. She didn't want to give that up, working remote. She's like, I don't want to give this up. Why? Because how can I put it? You have a view, $1 million view. You're the big executive. That's what you get from working at home if you live by the water.
Yep.
Not cost effective in California, by the way.
No.
You would have to give your paycheck and your friend's paychecks and 2 other people's paychecks to pay for that view. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So you never thought about moving back to California, huh? You were just like hit Boston. You were a done deal.
Yeah, I am happy to never move again.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, now is my time to be a homebody.
I understand the homebody, the thing about the Bostonians, the New Englanders. I mean, there's something that's just, I can't think of the proper word for it, but there's something about like, hey, it's here. That's all I need. It's got the seasons. It's got the families. It's got the, you get the big get-togethers. You get a routine. And it
moving, like when I go up in the attic, I got things from when my kids were babies. Like everything's there.
So what do you guys do for vacation? You guys go up to New Hampshire, go to the lakes, or do you go to the beach, or what do you like to do? Local little trips, I mean.
Stay pretty local, yeah. Like we can go down to Cape and stuff like that. We go to Michigan every year for a family.
Okay.
That's nice. That's right on the lake. That's always fun to see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently we've gone out to, my brother Dan got married, so we took a trip out to Boise, and that was lovely. And stopped in Boulder also on the way because there's no direct flight to Boulder. I mean to Boise at all.
Cool.
You're not smoking, Lenny.
I am. I'm gonna smoke in front of you. It's gonna get in your face. Yeah.
Outside now?
For this one. Huh?
Outside now?
Yeah, I just had to take a little get outside. I'm tornado watching and podcasting, and I'm not losing attention from you because you're one of my most long-awaited guests. I need to get this gal on here because you had such personality. I remember you, and then like you left. I'm like, where's that energy? Where's this? You know.
I remember you. I remember you sitting in the gym.
Hmm?
Like I always see you like from the doorway of the gym. The gym. I remember I have very vivid memories of just a few things in the gym because I hated gym class. But the trampoline, whenever they had the trampoline up on the stage and you could go in after school and jump on it. Like I remember that.
The trampoline was cool, but how dare you even try to do it by yourself? It was so dangerous.
Oh,
They'd have to have a group of 20 people to push you back. I mean, it didn't have the nets like it does today. That trampoline would kill you, if you flew up that thing.
Fall off the trampoline. You would also fall off the stage. But I remember, did they show the movie Roots in the gym? Like I remember
that. And I kind of like that. I think it was elementary school. We watched it in the little gym, the elementary school gym, because they're like, we're going to watch this. I'm like, this is so much better than doing homework. I get to watch American TV. I didn't care. I was like, going to watch Roots. I remember that.
We would have like special visitors come, like Up With People. Do you remember them coming and singing about like unity and stuff?
I don't know. I don't remember that, but you get better memory than me on that one.
Up With People was there. And then
I believe it.
Like, what were they called? Like Team Spirit, pep rallies.
Yeah.
Pep rallies in the gym. I lived for those.
You get to smash the pie on the teacher's face?
Pie in the face. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember all of that. Those were the things that I loved. And I'd always go like overboard, like with the hall decorating.
Mm-hmm.
I have a vision. I have an idea. And I had to get everybody, I was kind of bossy. And everybody had to do, like, it had to match my vision. And I would forego homework and studying to decorate the hallway and make sure that it looked the way I wanted it to look. It was crazy.
Wow. Those were the good old days.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love this stuff like that. Even somebody posted on the Facebook page that they loved at Yaslo Beach summer camp.
I went there. I remember you being there. There's that picture of you there.
Yeah. Well, I was a counselor my last summer there. And
your summer hire job.
Greatest job ever. But somebody mentioned how they like Pirate Day or something like that. And I was like, I take that very personally. And I'm so glad you posted. Because that was my jam. Like it's just setting up all of that elaborate obstacle courses and things like that for the kids. Loved it.
I remember Pirate Day. I remember we would have all the different cereals for breakfast. Remember? They have like 6 different boxes. And I love that because my mom, for some reason, never let us have sugary cereal in our house.
My mom, we had to go to camp to get it.
Right. You had to go to camp. And then we'd go to the carnival.
Yep.
Right? So that was the routine, the bonfire, the carnival, marshmallows on the beach.
Marshmallows. I remember the whole town would come in to get marshmallows.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
They came to score, right?
Yep.
That
like walk past and whisper to you like marshmallows.
Marshmallow. You give me marshmallows.
Well, we had in 7th grade we did an exchange, like a cultural exchange with another school.
Mm-hmm.
With Layla Martin's class.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to this other school and they had the kids line up against the wall, and then the kids in the Italian class picked you like a kickball team.
Mm-hmm.
Who they wanted as their partner, which I was like, this is horrible. Like, what if you get picked last or whatever? And then it didn't even occur to me. A boy stood up and picked me, and the whole class went, ooh.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh my God, this is going to be horrible. And we walked like 5 miles home to have lunch at his house, which was lovely and completely different. Like the entire family was there. Grandma was there. They showed me the rabbit that they killed to serve for lunch. And I was like, wow, this is a big deal. But then when they came, it was like reciprocal. So when they came to our school for the day, you had the same partner. So I had the same boy.
And
But
he was a scalding. No, I'm kidding.
smoking hot Flavio at
Yeah,
this is seventh grade. But all they wanted to do was go to Foodland
and get
and
American junk food.
marshmallows. Like they wanted to stock up on bags of groceries to bring home of stuff they didn't have, which was really funny. Um, but what a different, like I went to their house and had this lovely home cooked meal, and we walked, down the street and bought marshmallows for them.
I had some friends that were kind of like they were civilian. They weren't a military affiliated, but they went to our school and they didn't have ID cards. So my friend Troy and another guy I knew, Alan, they used to come to my house like, ooh, all this American food, American cheese. I'm just like the junk food, and that's what you craved, just like we craved television, we craved
Right.
music, and I don't know. I mean, for you to go to California, that was a great place to go afterwards. I don't know
Yeah.
how quick it was dissolving in your memory as soon as you hit California.
Right. Well, it's funny because when I heard about all these people whose parents made arrangements for them to finish high school in Vicenza, I was like, well, why didn't my parents do that?
Well, maybe it wasn't a thought after option at that point because that was more around that was your class. That was the two guys that did it was Mike Coley and Barry.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
And but then I started thinking, like, would I have picked it? I had a great time in high school. Very different. Um, like I had my little group of friends and my boyfriend, and we were in love. And but like I didn't go to the football games or the pep rallies or any of that stuff. I didn't do anything associated with the high school like we did in Vicenza. In Vicenza, I have a program from a wrestling tournament, and I literally stayed for the entire tournament, watched everybody wrestle, wrote down who won in the brackets, and saved it. And I don't even know who I was watching. Like you went to the basketball games, you went to the football games in Vicenza, and you felt a real sense of school spirit.
yeah,
And you,
I took that with I talked to Scott, who was there for a couple of years, and I think he was a year younger than me, and we played on the same football team, Scott Lewis,
okay,
and he's like he came back to Indiana. And I go, it wasn't the same, was it? He's like, no. I go, you didn't go on post to go have breakfast at the snack bar, get ready to go walk across the North 40, get a booster burger, watch the game, you know.
and having no connection. Like I didn't know anybody on the football team necessarily. I mean, you knew
Right,
them, but it wasn't like here. I don't think my kids have ever gone to a football game from their high school.
right. Yeah, and everybody went to everything there. And then you'd watch the 509th play. And, if it wasn't the school playing, it was the GIs playing. And it was sports, it was events. That's what we kind of all, that was the hang. And then there'd be either, if there
Yeah,
was
I mean, I
like
guess
this.
else to do, but how nice to have that connection. Like we even T-shirt. Like I had a T-shirt and a hat and a scarf and a baseball hat and the letter jacket, and you wore them and you were proud of your school. And
Hmm.
in Nevada, I don't think I have a single thing that has my school's name or emblem on it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
So one thing when you're strangers in a strange land, you kind of get that experience, right? Where you come back to the States and that falls apart, and you're like, when are you people going to get it? And I mean, I think I spent a good part of my life waiting for people to get it, which I knew, which was just almost like an illusion. It
right.
was like a social experiment, right?
We were very fortunate, I think, and I think you don't always appreciate it maybe until you're older and you look back on it and see what you had. Like,
Right. I mean, we graduating classes in like 48, 52 people, right?
right,
And so you get to know these 20 guys, 25 guys, 25 girls, whatever. And then some of them they would be in Verona, they'd have to take the train. So you didn't really get to know them, or they live in a different part of the
right.
economy. The economy. I love
Verona
that name.
is so mysterious and cool.
Right, right. But like you talk about somebody that was too cool, like you were talking about, Melanie, she might have been restricted too by strict parents,
Right.
right? And then I had another friend, Fred, who was like a rock star, Fred Puatua. And we'd be having these wild parties in Bellagio, and Fred didn't show up. And then he told me later in life that he says I had trouble remembering things, kind of like, he had too much energy, you
Yep.
know. And he's like, we're like, man, Fred must be doing something really cool. But he's at home like, where's the party, dude? I don't even know where the party is. Imagine that. So that was really the other side of the coin.
Right.
But you would say like they didn't want to come to our thing. You're not at my birthday party. It's like you don't know that Johnny or Cindy is not locked down at home on restriction because they get a C in their English test,
Right. Right.
right?
Even the Radcliffe brothers talked about how strict their parents were. I don't remember ever hearing that, but I remember them not always being around, like hanging out, milling around, doing nothing like we were.
I know they were all about basketball. They were basketball and sports first, and maybe girls in between, but mostly sports. They weren't big teen club guys, you know. And then there's people that just live by the regiment of sports. That was their everything.
Right. Right.
So I was kind of like anti-sports later. I played football here and there, but I would be like, it's nightlife. That's what I was into because there was no drinking age. I really tore it up over there. I had a different experience than, like your go downtown thing. We're like, let's see what kind of mischief we can get into today. Let's get on a train to Padova. It was just like, try it all because everybody would come from the States. Oh, you can't drink till you're 21. You might as well go party now. I'm like, yeah, get it in now. You know, it's funny. And I quit drinking at 22. So, what's that? Right. I'd done it all.
We had my there, which was the best summer ever because I had my job at summer camp, and then I went to Challenge '83, which was like a college course, and
Hmm.
usually it's all over NATO, so it would be hosted in Germany or Spain or even Turkey. But the year that I got accepted, it was in Vicenza, and I remember being very disappointed about it. Like, oh man, I don't get to go anywhere. It's right here. We're gonna sleep at the school. But it was so awesome being the host kid because we knew where to go downtown and we could like organize people and like, okay, tonight we're gonna go here. Get on the bus with Cara, and we'd go down there. And it was really great to sort of show off our little town. So I changed my tune on that very quickly. But even the teen club would host like a welcome dance for the kids from Challenge because there was maybe 50 kids, maybe 30 kids from all over the place, and they had like a special toga party and stuff. Um, but in that sense, like I never really partied or drank until that summer. And part of it was from Yeslo, the counselors, like, oh my God, like how are we watching the kids? Because there was a little bar on the beach
Hmm.
to the side, and we'd go there at night while the kids were asleep. And I was by far the youngest counselor in the group. So I would just hang out, I'd tag along with them. Uh, but that was sort of a transformative summer where I started partying a little bit more and get a little crazy.
You're a big girl now. Time to
Exactly.
party. Yeah, you're like I'm gonna take this experience and then I'm gonna use it to call Teddy in the future.
I remember one time we were downtown and we had had some beers and we ran into Teddy and his friends. And we were like sort of standing in it was a very vivid memory. We were like in the middle of the street, like, hey, what's up? Where are you guys going? Oh, we're going to head. And then I was kind of like, maybe we go with them and hang out with them. And Kari and Kendall were like, no, 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 we're going to go meet some guys over here. It's like, okay.
It was like off post. You're like, oh no, I have something cooler than you going on. It would happen, I swear. I'd see some girls hanging out with Italians. I'd see some girls hanging out with GIs. I'd see some girls, whatever they were doing. So you were comrades on base, but off base, you were like,
Right.
oh, I don't do that stuff. What are you guys playing pinball? That's for weirdos. I'm not into that. Yeah, I could see that. It's so funny. So you haven't kept in touch with Carrie or Kendall all this time?
No, I don't even know where Kendall is or Kari, actually. I think Kari was somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I would get the scoop from my mom, who like still exchanges with their parents or something.
Hmm.
But no, we didn't stay in touch. I don't even think did Kari graduate from there? Kendall
No, she didn't. No.
moved back. Um, yeah, I mean, there's families. We used to vacation with the Gonzaleses and the Cuddys quite a bit.
My Cuddy, yeah.
Cuddy, no idea where he ended up. Love that kid. Like, what a good guy. And Sue Cuddy, she was hilariously funny. She was on the basketball team when I was with the basketball. I mean, we would travel together, and I would be laughing the entire bus ride, um, just laughing at Sue Cuddy.
I remember Sue Cuddy.
Yeah. Their dad was like a dentist. See, my father worked at the hospital. So
Okay.
whenever a new family came from the States, associated with the hospital, we would take them out to dinner and stuff like that. And if they had kids, they would bring us and be like, oh, no, you got to come and you got to welcome them. And it was always like a kind of like a lottery. Like, well, they could be cool and that would be great. Well, what if they're not? And then we're stuck hanging out with them because my dad said I had to. But it was Sue and Mike. And I'm like, oh, these guys are fun. So we would go skiing and stuff together a lot. All the families like from the hospital.
The skiing was awesome.
Oh, the skiing was great. Love skiing.
Yeah, recently, I wish I would have known this guy. I met this guy asked me to help him on some podcasting stuff. His dad was the president of Austria for 8 years, and they owned Fisher skis. And I'm like, okay.
Not too bad.
Must be because he saw the Cougar Land podcast. He's like, dude, you probably know what you're doing. I joke with that, but I'm like, I go, send me some skis. So I guess I can get those skis for $50 now. I wonder how many people are going to hit me up for that. Those are pretty nice skis. But yeah, it's interesting. I did ski in Austria once. I liked it. I skied all over Italy. I really liked that too. And then I came back and I tried Utah, which was a totally scarier experience than Europe because the slopes were so steep. You had to get used to it. I did that with Mark and Freddie Parkins, did some skiing with them.
I found we came back and my dad really took to skiing quite a bit. He would go up every opportunity, which was fortunate because we would go with him. And then when we moved back to California, we would go up to Tahoe and Heavenly Valley and stuff up there. And very similar to Italy in that you could ski without your coat, like it'd be sunny and beautiful. And then I came out to New England and I skied in Vermont and I was like, nope. It was like
really?
Windy and wet and cold. And I'm like, this is not the skiing I remember.
That's wild. It's such, oh yeah, you've been talking about some of that New England skiing. That is some crazy stuff. Like you got to sharpen your edges. I think my brother cut his leg open skiing on that nasty ice. It just jags you.
I mean, I guess it's better. I mean, if I had started out there, I would have probably liked it better. But I started out,
It's ice skiing, basically.
Yeah.
You want to do some ice skiing. It's some gnarly stuff. But that's crazy. So well, maybe we'll find Kari. She'll pop back up. Somebody will mention her.
I hear what she's doing.
I see one lady that's Kari who's a hairdresser. I don't know if that's her that lives in Atlanta. I don't know if that's her. I just looked at Facebook.
I don't know.
To see where everybody ended up. Some people don't have a big Facebook presence, it just depends. Right?
People, you just randomly put in names and look them up.
Yeah, you just search and you find them. You can do that. Usually they'll pop up. Some of them have new names because they get married, so you're not going to find them, right? But yeah, it's funny. I looked at the yearbook, your slam book that's on our new site, and I go, oh, okay, I remember. That's Missy McCraney. That's Melanie Dorado. That's right. I knew everybody. You girls, you were the girls ahead of me, and
kid, like really all of them were great.
That's pretty awesome. So if you could meet up with them, I guess you would do that this time. At least I'll meet up with you if I come to New England.
Yeah, I'll meet up with you.
Yeah, with me. Hey, how you doing? Hey. Yeah, I'm that guy. I'll show up in Boston and I'll get my accent dialed in and they're like, hey, he's a local guy. Yeah. He parks the car in the yard with Javi. He's in Dorchester. Yeah.
Since your podcast started, so like we're home and we're taking the lockdown very seriously. Like we're not going on trips or anything like that. So I've been listening to you and then like going up to my attic and sorting through things and where is that? Oh, I thought I had this and finding it. It's been really great. But my kids are absolutely tired of me sharing little stories. Like, oh, I was just hearing today about this. And you knew that your mom did this when she was younger. And they're just like, enough, Mom. Shut up about Vicenza. We don't want to hear it anymore. I'm like, come look at my scrapbooks with me.
What were some of your favorite episodes that you liked? Which ones that you're like, oh, they just really made your mind expand on like, oh, I remember that.
I liked them all, and they're all very different. Like sometimes you're talking about very specific events, like swimming in Abano. I was like, oh, I've thought of Abano for years, and
right.
Suddenly I was there. Like I could smell the chlorine. And it was nighttime, and like the water was lit from underneath, and there was that tunnel. Remember, you could.
I remember that tunnel, little bridge that goes over. Because I used to do lifeguard. I went there like 3 or 4. I went there with my parents when I was little, and we'd go there in the wintertime. We'd be sitting out, and it's cold outside, but it's steam is coming off the pool. And we're
Off the water, like
yeah,
very vivid memories. And I can't tell you who I was on the trip with. Like it was a teen club trip probably, but those sort of when I have a memory, it's the whole experience.
mm-hmm.
Like the tired feeling on the bus, and your eyes were like stinging from the chlorine.
Yeah.
His hair smelled like chlorine.
Were you a lifeguard? Because that's where we had lifeguard training.
No, I was. My brother was a lifeguard.
I think I lifeguarded with your brother, or I lifeguarded with Carrie's brother.
Yeah, they looked a lot alike. Brent
Yeah,
my brother,
they kind of did. They were two like mop tops, couple blondies, right? That was the look. You had Brent.
Glenn was the mean lifeguard.
Glenn and Brent, right.
Everybody, and he'd blow his whistle if you were running and stuff like that. He wouldn't let you bring your radio in. He was kind of like that.
It's funny. It made me think of something funny. Talking about the whistle, because I remember I used to try to show off. So when you girls that I'd be in drama classes with, and I'd be like, put my feet up on my dad's desk with the whistle. How you doing? Hey, what's happening?
Totally picture you sitting there.
Right. It was right by the door when you came in the gym. It was so funny. Yeah.
Memories, like it won't be what you were doing or what you were talking about. It'll be like that glimpse of passing the door of the gym, seeing you sitting there, the entryway to the school. Remember, it had that big like honor roll.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Over when you walked in on the right-hand side, that board that was there, and the principal's office was right behind it. Yeah.
Standing there, waiting for the bus or doing something, and the little table at the end of the hall, right outside the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
It smelled like candy, but also the Valentines, the candygrams that would be delivered to people's classrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that stuff. Absolutely loved it. Any kind of organized thing. But even in the cafeteria, like people would talk about getting the square pizza. Like that brought, you're like, oh, the square pizza. I totally remember that.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, the rectangle. Call it square. Yeah, those little rectangle. That was like the best part. You either went through the like traditional vegetables and grown-up food, or you hit the other line. There was two lines,
Yeah, and you could see
the one on the further towards the door had the pizza, fries, and burgers. The other one had,
Period. Remember activity period where you like that's when I did all my homework. But
mm-hmm.
We would go and get French fries or a slice of pizza and do our homework in that 30 minutes we had in between classes.
Mm-hmm.
When I do, how people have that weird dream. It's like an anxiety dream where you're in school and you didn't do the homework, or you didn't study for the test, or you can't unlock your locker. I have like the reoccurring dream. I have it several times a month, but it's always at Vicenza and never at my high school in California. It's always the hallways in Vicenza and that big stairwell, like where everybody would like pass each other, milling around.
What's a trip is you're not hearing people. You went to California. It's a beautiful, exotic location. Nevada's beautiful. You're near the ocean. You're near Stinson Beach. I know exactly where it is because I lived in that area for 32 years. Right. And you would think, well, we thought it's better in the States. We all had this silly thought it's better back in the world. But nobody on the podcast is going, it was so much better when I got to the States. Screw your high school. No one's saying that.
But you always want what you like. I remember students would come back to like Mr. Pellerito's room when I was in Mr. Pellerito's room for sixth grade. And like a student would come back after college and they were in Italy and they stopped by to say hi to Mr. Pellerito. And at first I thought I was aware enough to know that was sort of significant, that Mr. Pellerito was such an influence that people are coming back years later to just check in with them and say hi. But then we would be like, sit on the chair at the front of the class, and then we would grill them with questions.
Mm-hmm.
Pop rocks. What are, like... Pop
rocks and grape bubble yum. Come on. I would never eat either one of those two things today if you offered them to me. But back then, they were exotic. It might as well have been Cheetos. You got Cheetos in the States, right?
Just knowing what they, what are you doing now? Even magazines and stuff. We didn't have like there was that bookstore on base, and I remember going to comics and Mad magazines, but I don't remember them having like the teenage magazines,
right?
So you could see fashion and who's in movies and stuff like that. I don't remember that, but I do remember. Oh, this is so nerdy. We watched Romeo and Juliet in English class, and it was it was like the 1960s movie, and the Romeo character was so good looking He looked like Zac Efron. And I
Wow.
remember we would go to the library and they had like the film strip of
Hmm.
with like stills from it. And we would go and ask the librarian, can you help us find the Romeo and Juliet film strip? And then we would just look at this handsome dude.
Well, that was long before these adult websites. That was going on back then.
Exactly. Because we didn't have, I mean, what are you going to do? There weren't any like teenage idols that you were watching.
Okay.
We were watching this guy from 1967 or 68. Look it up, though. He does look like Zac Efron.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Just the library. Remember the card catalog and having to learn all that?
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal System. That's what I remember. I'm gonna have you back on. I'm not trying to cut you off. We did go well over an hour. We did a good job today. We did an hour and 39 minutes. You kicked ass.
We didn't even gossip about anybody.
Yeah. We didn't even get there yet. See, that's why you get it. That's why you're a comeback guest. But see, now you found your true calling. You're a podcaster lady.
I don't know about that. This was fun, though. It's very fun to catch up with you.
Any shout outs to anybody you want to say hi to, hit you up?
No, nobody hit me up.
All the guys that really, Teddy, I want you guys to bug her. I want, yeah, Teddy, because I know you watch these when you work out.
I tell you, I had a crush on all the guys. Jim Hammett, John Hackett, Stickman.
Yep.
Crush on him. Mike Cuddy, crush on him. People who I had a crush on everybody.
That's what we liked about you. You validated everybody there. We all felt very handsome. Once you left, not so much, but you did a good job. You're somebody now. Thank you. It's been a wonderful, wonderful podcast.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for all you did.
Hey, you thought you weren't going to like this.
No, I thought I was